Popular author Jim Rohn once says, effective communication is 20% what you know and 80% how you feel about what you know. Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at how to communicate effectively in the workplace. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is how to choose the right communication method. Number one, face-to-face meeting. So this communication method is very, very important when you want to have important discussion as well as in resolving conflicts in the workplace. A face-to-face meeting for conflict resolution cannot be overemphasized because it helps you read body language as well as coming to a mutual agreement when both parties are there and everything can actually be resolved right there on the spot. Next, we have emails. Emails is another way we communicate in the professional setting. An email is good when you want to document for documentation purpose. It is very, very important to use emails as well as for formal communication. Lastly, I have phone calls. Phone calls are very good when you want to have quick clarifications or when the tone matters when you are communicating. Next, let's look at the importance of clarity and brevity during communication. Clarity basically has to do with speaking clearly when communicating. You want to make sure that you are speaking in a very clear term. And brevity, you are not saying so many things. Sometimes when you're saying so many things, people tend to forget the context or people tend to forget the message. So it is very, very important for you to be clear as well as brief when communicating. So how do you do that? Number one, use simple and direct language. So when you're communicating with people, make sure your language is as simple as possible and as direct as possible. A wise man once said something that in order to communicate effectively, it is good that you think like a genius and speak like a third grader. Basically, when you're communicating, do not communicate to impress anybody, but rather communicate to impact. Let your communication style be one that even a third grader, if a third grader is in that meeting, the third grader will be able to understand clearly what the message you're trying to pass across. Two, avoid jargons. Avoid jargons unless you're speaking to someone in the same field. So when I'm talking to engineers and I'm using terminologies that are engineering like, it is acceptable because those engineers would understand what I am saying. But when I'm talking to a mixed crowd, it is important that I use terminologies that everybody would understand. So as much as possible, using big words doesn't necessarily make you a good communicator, but rather communicate very as clear as possible and make sure everybody understands what you are saying. Avoid using terminologies except you are speaking to people in the same field. When giving written communication, it is important to use bullet points. When you use bullet points, it makes it very easy for the reader to easily read through what you are saying to understand what is being said. So this is why clarity and brevity is very, very important in your communication style. Next, let's look at different communication style and how do we adapt this communication style to different audience. So we have different audience. The audience you are talking to determines the communication style that should be used during communication. So when I'm talking to my boss, for instance, the tone I would use in communicating with my boss will be different from the tone I would use when communicating with others. The setting also matters. If I'm talking in a formal setting, my communication style will be different from when I'm talking in an informal setting. If I'm talking to my son, it will be different from when I'm talking to my colleague. So these are very, very key. Another thing that is very important is cultural awareness. So we live in a very diverse nation where we have people with different cultures and different values. And the example I used earlier, when I'm talking to someone from Yoruba that values respect and all of that, and I'm using certain Western gestures to talk to them, I would be seen as someone that is that lacks respect. So it is very, very important if you're talking to clients if you're talking to your clients or you're talking to people, it is very, very important to be aware of their culture and speak to them or use gestures and phrases that is suitable or relates to their culture, you will get their heart faster when you do this. Next, the goal and motivation of your communication. The goal you want to achieve and the motivation behind the communication would also determine the communication style that you are going to use. If I'm talking to people to motivate them, I would use a more enthusiastic approach in talking to them, using power and all of that to talk to them, rather than when I am teaching or I'm just giving a symposium. So the audience or the goal for a communication would also affect the communication style that is being used. So what is very, very key in or how do you know which communication style to use? So first of all, it's very important you tell yourself, what exactly do I want to say? If you know what you want to say, then you tell yourself, okay, my audience, what are they interested in hearing? So this is what I want to say. This is what my audience is interested in hearing. So if I match these two together, I would bring, or I would come to the point of relevance. So I would make sure that, oh, everything I'm saying is what is relevant. This is the information I want to pass across. This is what this person is interested in. So I would use what they are interested in order to do or to communicate what I want to say to them. So this is very, very key in communicating effectively in the workspace. We have come to the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at email etiquette. See you in the next lesson.